Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here. It is a huge honor to have a wonderful crowd of artists here, artists that come to us from around the world. And I really mean that. It was not the easiest way of coming here, not just in terms of really the actual journey, but also in terms of really having a collaboration and starting working with each other. And we are here representing a wonderful program that we're doing together. By we, I mean Ars Electronica and the Foreign Ministry of Austria.
Yeah, thank you, Christl. So, it's the first time we do this kind of duo intro. No, I mean, the thing is, what I can say is that it was, it's a project that was born really with enthusiasm and common understanding that we want to do a right thing. Hence, it was.
But what's the right thing, though?
Well, I mean, that was what we were thinking of, and we were thinking that you could use or offer the great platform of your festival to make visible art and artists that only with big difficulties or have reasons to be afraid to create and show their artists in the circumstances they live. And so we were thinking that this, and now, it's 3 years later, I think, and it is one of the most interesting. I'm not so experienced jury member, but I think it is amazing how many interesting projects are proposed for this award, and that's really like a whole universe, and with so many incredibly important art, because I think it's really good art, and at the same time it's always also personal stories and telling a lot about the state of the artists, but also of our society.
Absolutely, I couldn't have put it better. State of the Artist Initiative is first and for all an open call that reaches out to artists from around the world that especially work and live under severe and difficult conditions, being whether under threat to their own bodies, being living in a place where freedom of speech is not guaranteed, or artistic productions happen under very difficult situations and consequences, but also living in places where the consequences of the climate crisis already have a severe effect on the way that they live, but also on their artistic productions. What we did as a jury, Simon being one of the jury members, and we'll see some more afterwards, we looked at an incredible amount of more than 500 submissions that we received from 40 different countries around the world with different perspectives. Here it is not about media art. It is really about all forms of art, whether sound art, textile art, installations, and any kinds. And Ars Electronica is the platform to also showcase those projects, to create additional visibility for artists that might not yet have the global reach to really present the projects by themselves or by institutions internationally. And it is not, despite the title that we have here, it is not about judging the wrist of artists, of course. I mean, that would be a horrible thing to do, putting wrists against each other. It is about looking at artistic productions and really judging the quality, the aesthetics of those individual projects, and then making a decision and awarding the best works in the submissions. This has been a very difficult thing to do. The productions and the projects were amazing that we received, and it was not just topic-wise always directed towards the difficult situation the artists are actually producing the project in, but there are community projects, as we'll hear later onwards. There are film projects looking at the role of women in different societies. And then there are many projects that look at really the societal as well as the ecological impact in different countries around the world. But without further ado, we want to thank all of the artists that made the long journeys to Linz to be here with you. And we want to thank also the Foreign Ministry to support us and to be with us and to do together this wonderful collaboration, because it really just makes sense if we do that together as Ars Electronica, together with the Foreign Ministry. And with that, I would like to already invite dear Marita on stage, one of our fellow jury members and co-director of Artists at Risk, who, with her experience and her long-term knowledge, has been a very important part of the development of the project. And she will give us a bit of an insight into her actual work. Thanks a lot.
Warm thanks for the opening words and for Ars Electronica for taking the initiative together with the Foreign Ministry of Austria to start the prize. And it has been a 3-year journey which has been really exciting. Everything started, unfortunately, with the Russian full-scale invasion in Ukraine. But already last year in the jury work, it was really interesting because ecologists at risk were also brought in to this open call, which is, of course, the most burning issue of our times. As Christl said, I'm the co-founding director of Artists at Risk and Ecologists at Risk, together with Igor Stodolsky, who is also here and who also was a jury member with us this year and the year before. We'll take a little journey to history of Artists at Risk and Ecologists at Risk first, just to realize that how these peer institutions were established and why.
Willkommen bei der kostenlosen Jubiläumshow.
Just wait a bit. I have it open here, so I just open it. Just wait a bit.
Lies, if not then scraps of truth. They fill me up with shit. I feel shame, they fill themselves, they fill me up again. This time on state TV, they said he ate hashish. That makes no sense, they say it anyways. They say it anyways. There are many ways to tell the truth. Just tell them that the youth are doing drugs. That's why he died, and drugs are wrong. That is not done, that is haram. They feed themselves, they like confections most. They let their bellies out. When they're full, they feed themselves. They drive in chauffeured cars, they shut down rotaries. And if you know the man in charge, you pass by, you pass by, you pass by, you pass by. You have rights, you pass by. You're my friend, you pass by. I can see them. I can see deep within. I can hear them when they say there's no wind. No wind of change, but I can flap my wings.
Here you saw a video which was made for the musical which was staged in 2021 in New York. The animation was done by one of the most well-known street artists who joined the Egyptian revolution 10 years earlier. As we remember, the wave of revolution started from Tunisia, the revolution of dignity, Jasmine revolution, spread to Egypt, and then to the squares around the world. And at that time, Igor Stodolsky and I, we were working with the artists and activists who joined this wave of revolutions, from Bolotnaya Square to Tahrir Square to Taksim Square to Occupy Wall Street. And we were curating a larger scale exhibition and projects in the public space, especially with artists from Northern Africa. And when we were curating and doing research for this curatorial process, it became clear that when many of our peers, artist curators who joined the revolutions and went to the squares, were already at that point in the situation that they were facing jail sentences, they were facing torture. And it was pretty clear to us that if you meet your colleague who is in that situation, you want to do something about it. We were inviting artists to join the events in Helsinki, including Cancer. And he was already threatened at that point. And in 2013, we provided him a residency in Helsinki. We worked in a residency context that he could have a breather and he could reflect what he can do in this situation. At that point, Cancer decided to return. And that's very often the case with artists at risk we work. Those who are really politically engaged or socially engaged, they go back if they can, because it's not easy to be a revolutionary or politically engaged if you come to Europe. Cancer's story went on. I'm not going to the details, but he's nowadays in the US. He had to flee for good. He made a big mural about the masquerade in Rabat. You probably remember how General Sisi, who we saw in this video, organized a masquerade and up to 1,000 people were murdered. And Cancer was under death threats and he went underground. We were also supporting him and luckily he made it to the US. But he was one of the first residents of something which became Artists at Risk later on. What happened was that when we started to provide residencies and breathers for artists like Cancer, there were more and more artists who were approaching us and asking for support. And we were actually looking around that is there an organization which is working with artists at risk? As we know that there's PEN International who has been working with journalists and writers for more than 100 years. But at that point when we started to work around 2013, there was no organization working with artists from different disciplines. Luckily, the situation has changed since those days, but therefore it was very natural engagement for us with Ivor to start an organization which is very simply hosting artists who are facing risk, torture, jail sentences as peers in the artistic context, which is a key of our work. When somebody has to flee, it's very important to land in the context where you can continue your work as an artist. I will show you a short clip of another video. This is from that project we curated to the Square 2. As you see, that was already in 2014. And we were working with the artists and activists who were part of the Square movements. But at that point already there was a backlash, and we were reflecting that what could be actually the next step.
Back to the Square 2.
You saw there Nikolai Olenikov, who had to flee Russia, who is now a Russian long-term dissident, currently based in Italy. At that point, he was still working in Petersburg and Moscow. There's Palestinian artist Khaled Zarar, who you see it's Khaled's performance here. Many of these artists we brought together were still working in their home countries at this point, but unfortunately, especially all the Russian dissidents we work with, they are now elsewhere.
We don't understand the enormous importance of people being there with the others.
Here's Zip Group from Krasnodar. They are now in Berlin. They also had to flee from Russia. Here's Amar Abu Bakar, who is also Egyptian street artist. He made the famous series of protesters who were shot into the eyes by so-called eye sniper policeman from Egypt who was targeting protesters. He's one of the 2 policemen who were convicted, only once. Only 2 policemen were convicted, and partly thanks to Amar's street paintings, which and a protest to convict the policeman. And here you see a concert by the leading musician of Egyptian revolution, Rami Essam, who arrived in Helsinki also for this project, never left. And he had been silenced for 2 years. So when he came to Helsinki 3 days later, he was playing a concert with the most well-known Finnish rapper Paleface. And that's what is crucial. When artists have been silenced, we try to provide them possibilities to continue their work. So we can just go through these slides as fast because I've been already telling you about that. So we started around 2013, and since then, Artists at Risk has grown a lot within 12 years of our history. We also have got quite a few prizes for the work we have been doing, thanks to our peers and hosting organizations who have joined Artists at Risk since then. Here you see a little bit of statistics. It's 2022-23. We relocated around 767 artists. And the reason why the number is so high is that Ukrainian art professionals could come to Europe very fast without visas, because that's not the case when we work, for example, with artists from Afghanistan, from Sudan, from Russia, from Belarus and Palestine. So, and of course, the list goes on of those countries. It wasn't only, thanks to the visa regime, it was also because first time in the history of Artists at Risk, when the Russian full-scale invasion started in Ukraine, there was amazing wave of solidarity. Before the artists started to contact us, our colleagues, art institutions sent us emails and asked, what can we do? And provided to host the peers. And of course, our hope is that this solidarity would remain. It's for everybody, including Ukrainians. Because as we see in the art world, especially often there's one trend and the next trend follows. And we are still working, for example, with Afghanistan. These kind of processes are extremely long. Our Afghan team is working to get our colleagues from Afghanistan to Germany, for example. It has been extremely slow process, which might be actually stopped right now, not to go to the details, but it's a big engagement. And while artists are waiting, there also have been musicians, filmmakers who have been tortured and even killed while waiting. So also the nature of this kind of work is not metaphoric. It means that you have an engagement and it has to be a long-term engagement. It's not that it's 1 year, it's Afghanistan, next year it's Ukraine, then it's something else. You have applicants, you have colleagues, you have peers who really need a relocation. And we are trying to support them long-term. Of course, it comes to the visas, it comes to the funding, as we have mentioned before. I will tell you a few words about the flow of our work. First of all, we have an ongoing open call, which means that you can apply anytime. We have regional risk analysts who do the vetting of the applications. You saw the number of applications. We have more than 6,000 applicants, and of course, we don't have resources to support everybody. So we have people who come from the regions who are often dissidents, who vet the applications, and we have certain criteria which is being followed in risk analysis. And then we see what the next steps are. If it's an urgent case, we do regional relocations. Like in the case of Afghanistan, there are many artists waiting in Pakistan. If we can't get Schengen visas, like it has been the case, for example, with Sudanese artists, as our friend and former resident from Artists at Risk Tunisia also knows, we relocated him to Tunisia, and luckily he's now in France, but it's often very difficult to get the visas. And if it's a high-risk situation, then we do more and more regional relocations. So we have a network also of residencies in the global south, from India to Brasilia to Georgia and so on. After that, we have something called matchmaking curators, who are specialists in, they are curators, they have worked with arts and culture. So we have a database of hosts, which luckily has been growing since the Russian full-scale invasion. We have more than 300 hosting organizations. Though they see the profile of the art professional, okay, this artist is a dancer. Like we have one of the winners, it's Nina Bulgakova from Ethno-Contemporary Ballet. So she was relocated from Ukraine to Helsinki, and she was co-hosted by Dance Info Finland because she's a dancer. So we are looking for hosts who can give the best possible opportunities for artists to continue their work. We have our long-term colleague, Chief Curator of ZKM, Philip Ziegler there, they have been hosting artists from Kurdistan, Russian dissidents from Ukraine. It's the same case, that we'll see that what's the best fit with the institution so that they can continue to work. And after that, of course, it starts the visa procedure, which can be really complicated, as I have referred to that already. It can be that we first do the regional relocation in Global South, and then if it seems it makes sense, we might bring people to EU area later on if we get the visas and if it works out. And after that, it's basically finally the artist arrives to the hosting institution. Our work doesn't end there, because if the artist can't go back, our matchmaking curators are looking for the next step, helping with the grants, educational possibilities. So there's also a follow-up that we have Artists at Risk alumni we also still keep in contact with, and we also curate projects and exhibitions with our alumni, who are often great, very strong artists, and therefore they are at risk. Here you see a little bit of the map where we have the residencies. I'm also showing here we have talked a lot about Ukraine, but especially right now we are looking for funding tools for the internal residency network in Ukraine, which we started right away. And as it goes in trends, as we have said, that we have also very little funding for Ukraine at the moment to support artists who are still in Ukraine. And as we know, the work is still needed, and we just got the horrible news, of course, from Lviv yesterday. The old city center was attacked and 8 people died. So it's also important to remember that these situations are not over, and the engagement is still needed. I'm not going to talk much more about ethno-contemporary ballet because Nina will be on the stage in a moment, but this is one of the productions which was done by the Finnish public radio 1 year after the Russian full-scale invasion. Here you see some of our regional networks, so we also have hosting networks within the countries and cooperation between hosting organizations. I kind of gave you the explanation about how relocation works in theory, but practice is often very different. I have here a resident Paris Sehhat, one Philippe Ziegler knows well from ZKM. And Paris is amazing Kurdish artist and curator. And he applied to Artists at Risk, I believe it was already 5-6 years ago. Ivor and Philip might remember it better. But Paris was in touch with us. He had been organizing exhibitions in Kurdish language, and that's enough to be prosecuted. He's from Diyarbakir, from Turkey, and he was about to get 7-year prison sentence. And we tried to get him to Germany, because he has a family. We thought that would be a good destination, but it was extremely bureaucratic and slow to get the funding and papers to come to Germany. At that point, it was still easier to come to Finland, so we got him a 3-month tourist visa to come to Finland, and we got him out. But when he was in Finland, we informed German authorities that Paris is now in Finland, and we were happy about that. But then German authorities told us, but he's safe now. That it's basically, we are not going to give him the papers or the grant. That could he go back to Turkey? Then he wouldn't be safe, because it was a program for artists at risk. And we said that, okay, well, this is too much of Kafka, that if we send him back, he's going to be 7 years in prison. And with Ivor, we came up with a plan and proposal and said that, what about Belgrade in Serbia? It's outside of EU. Is that a little bit unsafe? And then there was a wonderful ambassador and consular from Germany in Serbia. Paris went to Belgrade and got the papers, and he arrived to ZKM in Karlsruhe, stayed there, and then moved on to Berlin. So, and now finally, 1 year ago, he got papers for his family to join him. So this is kind of telling a story that we have the theory that it should go this way, but often it doesn't. Every case is very different. I will show you, it's a small clip of Paris's latest performance. We organized an Artist at Risk pavilion in the Venice Biennial, and Paris had very touching performance called Olive Tree Morning.
تی پولێخن کورد کەتن زناران لە هاوێر بوومبە بوو گولبەهران ئێریشت بوون دەرکۆمێن نەیاران دەرا بەسەرخوێ کورێ من ڕابێ شەف تا سپیدا منینە قەتنە و جیهان لەبەرمە دتەوێ ڕەوێ ڕەو نەرکەو نەخوێنی چ بێی نەکەوی دەرا بەسەرخوێ کورێ من ڕابێ باوێتە چوو سەر شێر و لە مەیدان ئێریشت بوون سەر ئیران و تەهران دەستێن خۆدان هەف کورمانج و دۆستان دەرا بەسەرخوێ کورێ.
It goes on. Paris is reading a poem in Kurmanji, in his native tongue, and since we are also talking about ecologists at risk, that connects us to the topic. Paris is carrying around an olive tree, and some of you might remember the Operation Olive Branch, which took place in Afrin in 2018. And in one day, it was a Turkish military operation together with the Syrian National Army, and they masqueraded. It's 1,000 people in Afrin, in northern Syria, which is now occupied by Turkey. But it's not only about human lives, the persecution. I mean, more than 300,000 Kurdish people from Afrin have been relocated, but especially Turkish forces are also cutting the trees. And there are 1.5 million trees which have been cut in the area, and Afrin region, it relies on the production of olive oil, olive trees, and they have derooted around 650 olive trees. And of course, it affects it's his everyday life in really violent way, and this is going on as we speak. And we are now, as Artists at Risk also, we have more and more applicants who are artists, who are also ecological defenders. So therefore, we have slowly piloted and started a program working with arts and cultural workers who are ecological defenders, but not only arts and cultural workers, but it tells the total nature of oppression, for example, what is happening to Kurdish people at the moment. So, as we know that there's a kind of big urgency to protect ecological defenders who are defending the planet for all of us. And Paris was talking about this in his performance in the opening of Venice Biennial. I think Simon saw this performance as he was actually there, which was a very strong piece. Here are some pictures of the Artists at Risk Pavilion in Venice. It is very important for us to make the works of the artist visible. And often what happens when we organize this kind of pavilions and events in the international context where curators, critics come, the artists who are newcomers in Europe get the next chances to show their works. And of course, the message of their works is extremely strong, like in the case of Paris. Just very shortly, you see there, it's this T-shirt saying Romani Embassy. We have worked with Roma artists for on a long-term basis, and Elaine Lebar was nominated for Turner Prize. She's one of the leading Roma artists, and 2 days after we opened the pavilion, we got the news. So we are really happy that there are also artists who continue their careers and get the recognition they really deserve. Here you see works by Said Ahmed, who is also the main winner of the State of Artists Prize. So congratulations, and we hope you will go to see the exhibition. He has a different work in this exhibition, but he was also part of the pavilion. But since we have limited time, I move on, and Said is here if you want to have a word with him, or if you hope that he will introduce his work, which is about masquerade. Very sad story from Sudan. And we have been mentioning many masquerades, but we shouldn't forget what happened in Sudan in 2019. Just to end this, it's basically our new program is Ecologists at Risk, I have mentioned before. So we have now got pilot funding to start residencies in Caribbean and in Mexico, and also in Helsinki. So we are slowly piloting the program. Working with ecological defenders, it's even more dangerous than working with artists at risk. You see the murder figures up there. So there's an ecological defender killed every second day. It depends every year. And these are all only the murders which end up to the statistics. And the challenge is that often governments and multinational companies work together. That's the problem. So ecological defenders, they have no protection. And we also don't want to forget what's happening in Europe as we speak. There are ecological defenders in Europe who are also at risk, of course, in countries like Belarus and Russia, but also in Europe. Here you see a solidarity event we organized in Helsinki with La Tsad, which is one of the Tsad communities in France who have been protesting against building an airport in Nantes. And they have faced extremely violent police attacks. They were attacked by 2,500 police in 2018. And of course, it goes on not only in France, also elsewhere. You probably read about the water basins. It is an ongoing battle in France. And there has been extreme police violence also this summer and summer before that. So we hope that we can also establish a network of residencies within Europe, also for the defenders who are coming from the regions nearby. Because it doesn't make sense that we will fly defenders from Amazon to Germany or to Finland necessarily. We try to build network in the regions. So in Europe, we hope that we could also have a solidarity network for ecological defenders, hosting those defenders who are facing court cases and need breathers to rest, who are coming either from the regions nearby or from within Europe. So we hope that if you come from an art institution, from activist space, from artist-run space, we have an application form on our website. It's very easy to become a host, either for artists at risk or ecologists at risk. There are two different forms, or if you have colleagues, peers at risk, there's an application form you can spread around, and artists or ecological defenders can apply anytime to become a host. But we hope that ecologists at risk will get similar kind of solidarity from the colleagues as artists at risk has got. I think we have a few minutes if you have any questions, but thanks for your attention, and we hope that the State of Artist Prize will go on because it gives the visibility artists and ecological defenders deserve. And they have very strong messages, artistically speaking. Do you have any quick questions? Do you remember the Austrian? Yes. That's right, I think so. But we hope that more colleagues from Austria, of course, would join. Ars Electronica has shown the way, and we hope that there will be, it's also new host joining from Austria. But then it's just like I hand over to the artist, the panelist, who always has it's the main role when we talk about artists and ecologists at risk. Thank you.
I'm on? Hi. So hello everybody and thank you for being here. My name is Kamya Ramachandran and I join you from both India and Singapore today. I run an organization in India that brings together collaborative co-creation of artists, technologists, and researchers. And I was honored to be on the jury with Simon and Christl and Marita and Ivor. And today we are happy to bring to you some winners of the State of the Artists Award to kind of really open up their world in unpacking it for you to see how artists in difficult conditions function. So may I invite Christoph and Nina, Rafiul, and Maryam. I'll briefly read out an introduction of each of these people on the panel with me. Christoph Thun-Hohenstein is the Director General for International Cultural Relations from the Austrian Foreign Ministry. He was the director of the Austrian Cultural Forum New York from 1999 to 2007, following which he served as Director of Departure Vienna's Agency for Creative Industries. He was also the Director General of MAC, Austrian Museum of Applied Arts, and has directed the Vienna Biennale for Change from 2014 till 2022, and more recently has initiated the Vienna Climate Biennale. So welcome to this panel with your deep expertise, not just in enabling artists, but also understanding the global context within which this is. Nina Bulgakova from Ukraine is a choreographer and dancer currently based in Finland, originally from Kharkiv. She's a co-founder of the Ethno-Contemporary Ballet, as well as a choreographer, producer, artistic director, and a dancer. Rafiul Alom Rahman is from the Queer Muslim Project. He's the founder and director, and he brings a decade of experience in the LGBTQIA rights organizing, arts management, and digital advocacy. Rafiul is a 2023 UN Minority Fellow, a 22 CCP Fellow, and a 2020 SI Leader Lab Fellow. He was recognized as a global innovator by the Human Rights Campaign for pioneering an approach to countering extremism that utilizes alternative narratives around faith, sexuality, and gender expression. Maryam Sehhat was born in Iran and studied painting at University of Art and Architecture in Tehran and immigrated to Austria in 2017. From 2006 until now, she had many solo and group exhibitions with her painting in both Iran as well as Austria. So welcome to the panel, all of you. I'd like to now invite them to give you a snapshot of their work and their worlds in about 2 to 3 minutes, just so that we set some context before we go deeper into their lives and how they do their work. So Nina, may I invite you to share a little bit about your work?
First of all, okay. One more time? Okay. Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me into this event, and I'm really honored. I'm extremely nervous because of this speech. Sorry in advance. Can we start with a short video? We made it in Helsinki. This is a trailer of our performance Fertility, which we created in Ukraine just a month before full-scale Russian invasion into Ukraine. A few words about this artwork. The piece explores the deep connection between women and internal earth, and we use interesting props such as real grains of wheat and, for example, sharp sickles. And these both things, they are really important in Ukrainian culture. We didn't have the chance to show this performance, to have the premiere in Kharkiv, in our hometown. And after we moved to Finland in October 2022, we arranged this performance, and I'm so grateful for Alpo Takoski, Finnish choreographer, and also for Artists at Risk, who supported us and still supporting us, and Circus and Dance and Four. So we performed twice in Helsinki, this performance, and also partly we showed little piece in Austria. I will show you the next slide from the performance. Next. Yep. This is photo. So here you can see grains of wheat on the floor. So we are kind of covering the floor with the wheat, and then we dance on this floor. So we are a trio of female dancers. Here you can see me in the photo and also my great colleagues, beautiful women and friends, Katarina Zhuravleva and Anastasia Mostova. They couldn't come with me because currently we are working in Turku, in Finnish city, with Alpo Oltakoski and Aurinko Balletti. We're creating new piece. So I feel their support from there. So I really, I miss them. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Rafiul?
Hello, everyone. I'm Rafiul, Rafi in short. I'm from India, and I'm representing a project that's called the Queer Muslim Project. And we're exhibiting upstairs.
I think there's a clicker.
Okay, sorry about the technical stuff, but here is the Queer Muslim Project. And just to give you quick context, in 2015, I had applied for an Indian passport. And, as part of the application process, there is a police verification that happens. And while I had submitted my application, my landlord at that time in Delhi was very willing to be my local witness for the police verification. And after everything was done and the cop had arrived at my door to verify if that was my address, my landlord suddenly decided to refuse to be my witness. And he said, no, I can't do this. And I was quite taken aback. I felt betrayed. I was like, why would he do this after he had promised that he would actually support me with my passport application? Of course, in India, we use a word called jugaad. We managed, like something, I found a solution to the situation, and the next day I had to go to the police station with a few documents and an additional layer of verification. And an interesting thing happened there. So the policeman was quite bewildered by my presence. While he was not able to ask directly, he actually asked my friend who had accompanied me in my absence. In Hindi, he said, "Ye vaisa hai kya? Is he like that?" Yeah, and I didn't know that. So when I went there, he was like very polite with me, and he was talking to me in a very soft manner. And he was like, "Do you like to play sports? What are you interested in?" etc., etc. And I was quite shocked. I was like, why would a stout cop, talk to me like that? But I ignored. I got my work done and I left. And it was only on the way that my friend told me that when I was, standing on the other side, the cop had actually checked with him to see if I am like that. And that somehow diffused the fear for him. And I think this incident, what it made me realize is that, when you're Muslim, it's seen as an explosive identity. Like that there is a fear, that there's a threat that comes with the potential of Muslimness. While somehow my queerness was seen as something that could diffuse that fear and that tension. And I think that made me think that, all of us, we carry so many facets of our identities on a day-to-day basis. And yet, we are constantly performing. We're constantly offering only a glimpse of what we think might be acceptable by society. The Queer Muslim Project, I founded it in 2017 for this very reason. Because while I grew up, there were very few references to who could be queer or what is queer, right? And could you be Muslim and could you be queer? That's a question that gets asked very often, even by the media. That, the Muslims, they don't accept homosexuality, right? But with the Queer Muslim Project, what we have done is we have really worked with that question. We have brought together stories of people from around the world, but what we do now, and I'm going to show in the next slide, is that, and I think there's a beautiful quote, we dream in narrative, daydream in narrative, remember, anticipate, hope, despair, believe, doubt, plan, revise, criticize, construct, gossip, learn, hate, and love by narrative. This is by Barbara Hardy, and this is such a beautiful quote because it tells you how narratives at a day-to-day level form the very basis of what we love and what we hate, and what we believe is the hope for a better world. So here's a quick glimpse. I'll talk in more detail, but this is just to give you a quick sense of our programs. What we do is we work with narratives, primarily in the field of literature and film, and of course with a range of partners from British Council, Goethe Institute, and a bunch of other partners, and primarily looking at identifying emerging queer talent who come from underrepresented communities and giving them the tools, resources, and networks to tell stories. So here's this slide captures like the many different visuals. You'll see visual art, performance, film, all of it coming together and forming this rainbow of emotions, hope, and aspirations of marginalized groups. And I think on that note, I'm going to be going back to my seat and pass it on to Kamya. Thank you.
Maryam.
Hello everyone, I'm Maryam Sehhat from Iran, from A Woman's Odyssey. We did this animation with Leila Sameri, she sits there, and she asked me to talk instead of her. I studied painting in Tehran Art University. Leila studied graphic design, we met there, and after that we were not only friends, also colleagues. We made 5 animations together. We also had some painting exhibition together. It's almost like this, that Leila has an idea, she writes the story, she makes a storyboard and paint also backgrounds for the animation, and I'm responsible for the movement, the animate, the characters, and edit and audio. So we are a team like this. We work only 2 together. And for this animation, Leila had this idea around 18 years ago when she was at the university, and she had this feeling that she's like a fish stuck in an aquarium. And this is the first sketch that she made at the university 18 years ago. And then after years, she completed the story with her experiences. And also after our emigrating to Austria, because we emigrated together in 2017. In first lockdown, she also painted some illustration and painting for this story. And also 2 years ago, the Woman Life Freedom movement started in Iran, and we were really touched with this movement. Also, we were not in Iran, but Leila, for example, could really feel this situation because she was arrested 6 times by the hijab police in Tehran, and she could really imagine how difficult this is in this situation in Iran. And we completed the animation with the first sequence of this animation. Yeah, about this picture, this is the last sequence of the animation. This is a rainbow, and it has 2 sides. One is there was a little boy, 10 years old, in Tehran. He was killed by the police in this movement. He was on the street by his family, and he was shot by the police. And he used to make some videos and put it on YouTube or Instagram. And he always started his videos with this sentence, "In the name of Rainbow God." And so we decided to finish our animation with this sentence. And it's also had this meaning for LGBT community in Iran, because they also fight and they live in a difficult situation in Iran.
Thank you,
Thank
Maryam.
you so.
You can hold on to that. So I think before we open up in conversation, I would really like to thank the 3 artists present here for being open and available to talking about sensitive things. and bringing their vulnerabilities onto this stage as they speak about it. But also to acknowledge really that the State of the Artist Award had so many applications from so many artists who went through similar journeys, and you see 3 of the winners up on stage here. So, Christoph, I'd like to start with kind of handing over the mic to you for a little bit as a supporter and an enabler for spaces of conversation like this. It's an award, it's a panel discussion that's opening this up. Why is that important for the Austrian Foreign Ministry?
Thank you very much. Also, thanks very much for your presentations. Very impressive, also very touching. Why is it important for the Austrian Foreign Ministry? You know, cultural diplomacy, it used to be called, was in the past about presenting, and this goes for every nation, presenting your own cultural achievements, especially of the last 100 years in contemporary, to the outside world in other countries. I think this has substantially changed in the last couple of years, or even maybe 2 decades, because the underlying philosophy is really international cultural relations, which means that you enter dialogue. We, for instance, we do exhibitions that are learning exhibitions and dialogue exhibitions, which means we present, of course, a couple of Austrian positions, but then we also include and embrace the particular location where we present this. But you have to go even one step further, decisive step further. We live in a world full of war, conflict, and so on. So it's not anymore about kind of presenting just Austrian artists abroad in different disciplines. It's really also to look how can you help artists at risk, also artists who are at the same time ecologists at risk, super important. Of course we can't help each and every artist, but we can devise programs, formats. They also involve juries, but where you give visibility. So Ars Electronica, for instance, is a fantastic platform to give visibility to the artists selected in this program. And the whole program and this initiative also fits perfectly into a new initiative I brought in, our main project or the program, I would say, which we call Imagine Dignity. So we do exhibitions kind of following this catchwork or this motto, Imagine Dignity. What does it mean? Imagine obviously means that we need the imagination of artists in different disciplines to think about the future and to think about dignity. And dignity definitely is not only the dignity of humans, that's already a very, very important part, especially also in countries and areas of conflict, but it's also about the dignity of nature, the dignity of other species. So you have this kind of holistic view of dignity, and since we are here at Ars Electronica, I also add we have to deal with the dignity of artificial intelligent beings. Beings is a very risky word, I know. But this is also a topic we really have to deal with. I did it already 8 years ago at the MAC, but it will be more adamant and more adamant. And especially these technologies have a huge repercussion also in the work of artists, both in the positive sense and in the negative sense, because talking about surveillance by AI and other digital tools, which makes it so much easier for governments in certain countries to really have this super clear surveillance of all their inhabitants, face recognition and so on. So these are all very dangerous developments, and also for democracy these tools are dangerous, but at the same time we can also use these tools into the other direction, and this is also a big topic. So to answer your question, after having said this, we feel that this has become a super important part of our, let's say, concept of international cultural relations.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for that. And really thank you for creating such spaces, and I hope you do more. But I think I will move on to Nina and maybe Maryam as well. Forms of societal oppression, war being one of the extreme cases, really works on an erasure of culture, of knowing, and really, as we lose people, we lose embodied knowledge of a place. And I think your works are hearkening back to that home that you have left, the culture that you have left. You are in new places now for your safety. I think the question I have is, when you create works about home and a different place, what do you hold on to? What do you let go of? And what is the value of showing your works in a location like Austria, like Helsinki, about stories from your home?
So many thoughts. The things that influence me as an artist, it's like Ukrainian heritage, our traditions, our songs, our people actually, and our defenders now, really. And these horrible things that are happening right now in my home country, of course, it affects the way how I work now, and it somehow makes me stronger. And I have hope for the best for my country, and try to survive as a Ukrainian woman in a foreign country and as an artist as well. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So it's good to hear it's making you stronger, being on the outside and working for home. But Maryam, do you have any ideas on your experience?
Yes, I would like to say that we as Iranian women artists, we have really touched it, how difficult is it to live in Iran as an artist, and especially woman, because both is difficult. And woman artist is more difficult because the system will control everything, and you cannot make really art if you are under the pressure, or you have to put you cannot put your idea in your artwork. And for women it's more difficult because only being a woman is crime, because your hair, your voice, your body tempt men to commit sins, and you have to always cover yourself. You have to think that you should be hidden, actually. So here we have this possibility to show our message, and it's also important for us. We are both painters, but we have chosen animation to convey our message, because I think animation has more audience, because a lot of picture in a shorter time. So we are always happy that so many people could watch our animation and take this message. Thank you.
Great. Rafiul, moving on to you a little bit. All three works that you have presented today really make a strong case for pushing boundaries on the idea of gender. But I'd like to direct this question to you to say, how has your work and the work that your community has done, give us a sense of how it's pushing the boundary and helping us understand the idea of queerness and therefore the world around us in a different way?
I think what both of you shared was so emotional, because I think one thing that I want to just recognize is that the work we do, it's deeply emotional, and so therefore, the burden that you carry, the labor of emotion that you carry wherever you go, and I think this is such a wonderful opportunity that we're getting to talk about this. I think queerness, by its very definition, pushes boundaries. Like, when the word queer came into being, it was in opposition to what queer was seen as abnormal, as unusual, as, weird. And I think what queer politics over the years has offered to us is this vastness and this expensiveness of imagination. And I think at the Queer Muslim Project, what we've been doing is, it's a difficult world, right? Like what you're sharing about, like of course in a country like Iran, but when you come from a community that is not open to how you want to express yourself or identify, or who think that it's not in alignment with your faith or with your spiritual belief, right? And then being a religious minority at that, and being constantly told that, oh, Muslims are a certain way, that Muslims should only be limited to these spaces. And I think for the Queer Muslim Project, what we have done, and what I'm really proud of today, is that we operate from a place of hope. We are presenting stories of what is possible and what a different world could look like. And I'm very proud that today two of my colleagues, Rachita and Maniza, are here. And it's just that, together we've been able to create that and really come from a place of hope, because I think what is really easy is despair. What is really easy is dejection and hopelessness. And there are days like that when you feel like nothing is working. But I think to just continue and to believe that there are people and that there are allies and there are supporters and that the world is a beautiful place and we must be grateful for that is, I think, something that keeps me going. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we need to take a moment to gather from that one. It's hard to just move on to another question in a matter-of-fact way. But Christoph, what more needs to be done to have works like this be out and about and, affect the world? I think in just talking about their work, they have affected this group here. In showing their work, they do a lot more of this. What do we need to do to push this out further?
Thank you for the question. I'm always interested in effective follow-up. Yeah. I mean, we have to be aware of, on the one hand, since the topic of this festival is hope, I'm a huge fan of the concept, and I didn't invent it, of active hope. Does anybody know what active hope is? It's a concept that says you hope for something to materialize, but you're also prepared to engage yourself for it with everything that you in your power. Yeah, and I think this is such a beautiful concept, because just to hope is already something, but it's not enough. Whatever you can do. So now, I also have to say something unpopular in some quarters in the Western world, so to speak. If we look back maybe 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, we saw that in the Western centers of contemporary art, there was also a certain feeling of abundance. There was a well-functioning art market and so on, and people had to repeat themselves in order to kind of have the necessary amount of art production to serve all the collectors who wanted to buy. And I think this has fundamentally changed. And I think the reason of the change is, of course, these additional conflicts, the dire world we are in many instances, but it also means that a huge period of regeneration of art has started. So I'm fascinated with the concept also of regenerative arts, because we have to be aware that a lot is not in order. We have to become from fossil to non-fossil, renewable and so on. But also in our societies, queer and all these major issues. And in the end, we have to realize that we are witnessing a new era of globalization. And it's not the old globalization that we have been used to and that's going down the drain, but an era of a new awareness of solidarity, because in several respects we are in one boat. Yeah, this is the climate crisis and so on, but it's also AI and what will happen with AI and how it develops, and it makes a huge impact if something happens with regard to AI somewhere in China, I don't know. It has repercussions on the entire world. And if not everybody contributes to climate mitigation and so on, we will all be in the mess, including in Austria, as we can see. Yeah? And so what does it mean? I think that also the art community has to develop a different quality of a global art community, not one that is kind of the Western-based art community of abundance, but a new art community of solidarity. And I think a lot of younger generations also in the West feel this. Yeah? And I'm not saying that the older ones can't be saved. Yeah? Of course, they also feel it. And I think there is a kind of tendency, and we have institutions and also ministries responsible also for art have to push for this. We need this new era of regeneration of the arts, also bring in the scientists, and also really start something new. And we need all the impulses from everywhere, because they're so different, they're so diverse, and there's a cross-pollination. You know, everybody can learn from each other. You can also learn from what has been achieved here, but it has to be done in a different spirit rather than this market abundance spirit. I hope you understand what I mean, but this is also a huge opportunity. And we did a lot in the Western Balkans, and we are continuing that. And also other places, yeah. But you feel that the artists, they are really hungry, yeah. And this is something I haven't felt for some time, or rather as an exception than a rule in Western centers of art. And now there's really something new. We are all on the move, and we have to make sure it goes into the right direction.
So thank you for that point you make, that it has to go beyond production and the market. How do we place different ideas of value over art? But coming back to that, I think what stands out in some of your works is you still pay so much attention to your craft, that it has to be done well, it has to be aesthetic, it has to be affective through its aesthetics. So I feel like it would be good to nosedive a little bit into how you do what you do, and how do you do it well. You know, how do you make a really good project despite hard conditions from which it's coming out?
How am I doing it well? I hope so. I do it well. I hope so. I dedicate it to my profession. I really, really love my work. I like dancing. I like creating. I like audience. I like showing my performances to the audience. I like the time that I spend in the dance class with my dancers, with the composer. I like planning new pieces, and I'm so grateful that we got one more grant from Finnish Foundation, from Vihori Foundation, and we're creating new piece, Women at the Sea, which aims increase awareness of seas and ocean pollution. And what gives me this push, it's of course my relatives, my daughter who still lives in Kharkiv, and that was her decision to stay there. She's 18, and she is a great person. She gives me so much. People and people. Thank you, people.
I think a big part of our work is also in the digital space, especially on social media, and I think where it's very easy to get lost, right? And because there's just so much of what you were saying, Christoph, mass production. Everybody is so, like, there is this attention economy, right? It will disappear in seconds. So I think the urge then becomes that you create more so that you get more followers. And I think at TQMP, thanks to Rachita and Marita also, I think we've been able to kind of work out some sort of a middle ground where we realize that yes, it's important to engage audiences, but I think we should not give up on quality. Or even the story, like a story that's shared with us, it goes through a whole editorial process around security, safety. Do we want to just present a story out there? Or do we have to also take into account that this person may be a young person from a country where it may not be safe to even be visible, even if they're excited? I think just taking those into account, and then of course working very closely with artists, because I think artists really know their craft the best. And sometimes you have to trust them. And I think as producers, as cultural producers, I think that's our space. That how do you create a space where you can nurture artists and really believe in their stories and their aspirations, and how do you arrange for those? And I think I do that a lot. I'm always backstage running for money, figuring out time, figuring out facilitators, and doing all of that. But I think what comes out is oftentimes, and thank you again for naming it, community, people, and just the joy of doing. Joy is so important to aesthetic. I think it's so important. If you're not happy, you will produce bad content. So,
thank you.
So for us, it's mostly a long process, because from the start that Leila starts to write the idea, to make the characters, and then think about which technique we have to make the animation. And I have to say that it's a big, really, really big motivation for us that our animation would be invited for some festivals, mostly in Austria. And also we have won some prizes. And it's a really big motivation for us. But when we want to start animation, until now we didn't have any supporters. So we have to also think about how many budget we have, and because of this, mostly we make analog animation because it's easier, but it takes a lot of time to make the animation. So this animation, for example, took 2 years for us to make it. Wow. Now Leila has another idea. She's working on the story and also characters, and maybe after Ars Electronica, we start to make our next animation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess there is therapy in making art, and especially when you're dealing with hard topics, art becomes that kind of Zen space to work through what you're working through. But we do have a little bit of time, and since all of you have made time for this panel today, I'd like to open it up to any of you who have questions or comments or offerings for this conversation. You have a comment? Sure.
I have a comment regarding what you said. I think it's very important, we are all clear on that, to believe in artists, super important. I'm always critical when it comes to the carte blanche project. You know, there are certain instances when in a special constellation, a curator is given a huge amount of money, and then he says, okay, I give complete carte blanche to the artist, so the artist can do whatever he or she wants. I think we live in what I call a new modernity, a regenerative modernity, and institutions need to create constellations and need also to bring the right people together, and also, if necessary, scientists, because there is again cross-pollination, you know. So it's a joint kind of piece of work. We do it together, and in the end, usually it becomes much more interesting also for the artist. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to create these constellations that really push us forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for your great contributions, and congratulations for all the awards that you've received. And it's a great moment for you to be on stage and recognized for your art. It's wonderful. And I think I totally agree with your point that we do it together, but we still need to recognize the artist as an artist. But I want to emphasize that we do it together in my comment now. So I'm just reading a book about the Emergency Rescue Committee that saved the lives of thousands of people leaving particularly the south of France during the Nazi occupation of Europe. And they worked with all the famous artists of the time, Breton, Chagall, you name it. Unfortunately, I mean, the leading figure of that particular committee was Varian Fry, an American who came to the US, from the US with a bit of money and then abused his position in Marseille to make all kinds of moves which his State Department in Washington wouldn't have allowed had they really known. So he was not liked by his own government, but he proceeded nevertheless and worked with all across the board, with communists, with anarchists, with oppositionals, with any form of people fleeing Europe at that time. As a result, he wasn't recognized, and this working together only came back. It was only in 2000 that Christopher Warren, the US Foreign Secretary, was officially recognized his position. And I think it's now important, because we're facing this kind of crisis once more, globally this time. People fleeing from all corners to all other corners, if you like. And we at Artists at Risk actually work in that way. Sometimes it's safer for somebody from Iran to come to Turkey, but somebody from Turkey has to go to, let's say, Serbia. So it's kind of a accelerated and more difficult situation than it was even then. It's not just one way. And just to kind of conclude my comment, I think I would like to really further your point about how it doesn't work unless we do it all together. And the Bretons and Chagalls and Marigold and Guggenheims of our time need to all work together to be able to make it possible. So I'd like to just agree with you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivor.
Yes, thank you. It was really wonderful to hear all of you. And in the note of what you just said, and for the record, I hope you don't mind, but I would like to raise the issue of one of the Gao brothers who've just been imprisoned by the Chinese government. I know the Gao brothers, I've known them for years. And I would just like to say that I hope any official letters from the Austrian government to the Chinese government about the release of one of the Gao brothers would be very helpful at this time. And they are working in digital art. They're sculptors, but they do work, they've been working in generative AI for a few years as well. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contributions. I was very impressed from some keywords. For example, fun. It has to be fun. Otherwise, one would not take a second look on this piece of art or whatever it is. And there was a second keyword. The keyword, I would call it networking. Networking in the sense of transdisciplinary, that not only artists are working together, but also transdisciplinary scientists and psychologists, whatever would contribute to the overall project idea. There's always an idea within your work, and this idea could be worked out by a network of contributors. And the last one, as I look at the stage here, is transnational. We earn so much by linking together different cultures and to really try to cross the boundaries of our own cultures and to put it together in a new project. thank you very much for your contributions.
So thank you so much. That was like a beautiful wrap-up of what everybody has just heard. You've done my job for me. But yeah, go ahead.
No, thank you so much for mentioning the practical aspects of even getting this work out. I think currently, especially in times of war and conflicts that we're seeing around the world, I think what takes the hit is the arts funding. And I think increasingly we are being told that there's not enough money. So, and I don't want to direct it to Chris, but what I wanted to suggest is that I think, of course, artists must organize and collectivize, and we must do this work as community and support each other. But I also feel that there needs to be collectivizing amongst those in power, those who have resources and money and decision-making power. And I think more of that is needed right now, so that if you're not able to do it alone, like who are the other people and how do you do it collectively is something that I want to also recommend. And you said that you just came from an amazing conference in Vienna on democracy, so I'm quite excited about it. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Well, in a country like Austria, for the large institutions in culture, they get a lot of funding, and that's the difference to the US, for instance, from the government. Yeah, but the political culture says that whatever they have a certain, let's say, they have certain defined fields of competence, but they are fairly broad, and whatever they really want to do in concrete exhibitions or programs of an opera house or so, it's their decision. Yeah, it's not the government saying you have to do an exhibition on that topic. And that's a political culture that I completely feel comfortable with. But it also means that the people in charge of these institutions need, in many cases, and they're doing it, need to develop their mindsets also, yeah? Because this changes over time, and the old blockbuster philosophy is not so interesting anymore. So we really have to reflect on what kind of exhibitions we can do that command a certain audience, because without an audience, it's dead. Yeah? But this is exactly what has to be done in institutions. And I'm a fan also of creating new projects, because then you create a project for a specific purpose. Like when I convinced the city of Vienna, I went to the mayor and proposed to him that Vienna finances a climate biennale every 2 years. The first one just took place, the second one will be in 26, and then the focus is already there, which doesn't mean that the established institutions are off the hook. They really have also to deal with these major issues. And another thing I wanted to raise, replying to the last intervention from the audience, another word I would add is young children. Every scientist would tell you that the mindset, is developed at an early age, I would say until age 5, 6 or so, and this is key. And I think we need way more art that speaks also to young children in different disciplines. And how we can do that is some of the challenges of the future, but that we need it, I think is beyond doubt. Thank you.
So thank you all of you for sharing today and really engaging the audiences with your amazing world. Keep doing the fabulous work you're doing. Not just to the three of you, but everybody else who's doing this amazing work in their own spaces. And thank you, Christoph, as well, for making the space. Thank you all of you for being here, and we'll move on.